Raw materials. You buy them, take them, need them. Gold, oil, wood, lithium, spices. The need for them has fueled global expansion and tension. What does this race look like today? Trump and China certainly need them. Join me, Jan Darash, for How We Got Here.
Donald Trump is bent on making Greenland American, be it by force or money.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes.
But what's so precious that made Trump so hell-bent on acquiring the world's largest island? Most likely two words: raw materials. Also known as rare earths, they are critical for a variety of advanced technologies like electric vehicles, smartphones, and renewable energy systems. In fact, one of the world's largest undeveloped rare earths deposit, the Kvanefjeld project, is located in southern Greenland. The region boasts a wealth of neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium, all of which are indispensable for producing high-performance magnets used in electric vehicles, wind turbines, and other advanced technologies. The rare earth complex is to consist of a mine, a concentrator, and refinery, producing a mineral concentrate containing 20 to 25% rare earth oxide that will be upgraded to high-purity intermediate rare earth products in the refinery. What makes the Kvanefjeld project extra attractive is the feasibility of extraction and the accessibility of the resources, mostly forming outcropping bulks. This renders potential exploitation possible at low costs. Not less crucial are Kvanefjeld's uranium deposits. The resource is becoming increasingly important for low-carbon power generation, especially for the European Union, which is making its green energy transition. Greenland also boasts large reserves of high-quality iron ore. Located on the west coast, the Isukasia project has been identified as a potential source of this material. While the availability of gold and diamonds has yet to be fully explored, oil and gas reserves in Greenland's waters have shown significant potential. Companies have shown interest in deposits, especially in the wake of melting Arctic ice, which opens new exploration areas. Greenland is thought to offer significant deposits of nickel, copper, and cobalt, all of which prove essential for various industries, not excluding batteries for electric vehicles. Trump's growing interest comes ahead of his inauguration and amid signs implicating a tentative trade war with China. For its part, Beijing has already banned the export of technology to make rare earth magnets, on top of another ban on exporting technology to extract and separate the critical materials. The European Union is also in the game for rare earths. In December, the bloc secured preferential access to some crucial raw materials by signing an agreement with the Southern Common Market, a South American trade bloc better known as Mercosur. But should Trump lay hands on Greenland's mineral riches, including the already identified amount of over 9 million tons of rare earth oxides in Kvanefjeld alone, the EU may find itself left out in the cold.
Listen, who knows? He may have to come by here one day.
I'm delighted to welcome our guest today, Bruno Surdal, a security analyst at the Centre for International Relations here in Warsaw, amongst other things. Welcome once more to the programme.
Thank you for having me again.
The race for critical materials, critical raw materials, is very newsworthy at the moment with Greenland and President-elect Trump ostensibly making a bid to want to have some sort of control or ownership over Greenland. Is it about the geographic strategy of Greenland, geopolitical position of Greenland, but is it also about the critical materials that we read about that are in this huge island?
Trump's bid is part of strategic competition with China for critical minerals and influence in the world. For one simple reason, Greenland has rich assets, natural resources, critical raw materials, and strategic raw materials like zinc, yes, like nickel, like copper, yeah, and also Greenland has rare earth. As we know, rare earth mining and production has been monopolized by China, and already the Chinese say that they will much reduce export of rare earth to the United States because of Trump tariffs. So you should understand that what Trump says, we should take it seriously, but in what sense? In this sense that he wants to negotiate best possible conditions, terms and conditions for the United States as regards better access to Greenland's natural resources. On the other hand, to tell Europe that Europe should invest more in defense, because Greenland is not just the shortest route from United States to Europe, but over the last 10 years, Russia has built up its capacity in Arctic region. Yeah, so we should understand what Trump says in this context.
And you mentioned before we came on air about China and its near-Arctic status now.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be going over the top.
Exactly. Several years ago, China announced in its first white paper, Arctic white paper, that it is near Arctic state. Of course, it's ridiculous, but anyway, it is taken seriously because it means that China will pursue its interests also in Arctic. China already tried, to persuade Ireland, but also Greenland, to give licenses to extract natural resources there. So, in my view, Trump wants to avoid this. Extension of Chinese and Russian interests.
You mentioned the rare earths. Could you just give us a recap? What are they? What are they, and what are they used for primarily? And just generally, when we see this world race for the raw materials, how expensive or cheap is it going to be to extract them? It's one thing to find them, but it's another thing to play the geopolitical game, to get ships and men and all the machinery there and take these materials out.
Yeah, germanium, gallium, and other minerals. The extraction, processing, mining, and production is dominated by China. Of course, without them, it's not possible to produce any real, electronics. From smartphones to electric vehicles, to solar panels, to wind turbines, to battery storage.
Everything.
Yeah?
Yes.
Everything. Yeah. This is why it's that important. And with China dominating the market, United States needs to do something. And what Trump says, and we know, Greenland has such assets, rare earths. So I think Donald Trump is trying to say that he wants to, let's say, liberate the United States from this dependency on China.
You mentioned also that China has sewn up the market for rare earth metals, in lithium especially, in South America. You mentioned Serbia has got a rich deposit there. Are we in a kind of the equivalent of the arms race of the early 20th century? Great powers just going to compete and go into conflict with each other over these materials.
The problem for critical raw materials is that production and mining is highly concentrated in just a few states around the world. And who dominates? China. In Congo, as regards cobalt, but also as regards lithium, 60 to 70%. And where we get it from, Europe, also from China, for example, rare earths, but from Chile, from Argentina. Yeah? And now what you have just mentioned, in this year, in July, the European delegation with also German Chancellor Olaf Scholz went to Serbia to talk about possible extraction, processing, mining lithium in Jadar Valley in Serbia. The problem is that there is huge, I would say, political disagreement in Serbia about this, because it's part of political fighting between opposition and the government of Vučić.
What are the likely consequences of great powers competing? You said that in Europe we seem to be preoccupied with the human rights angle. We talked very briefly about cobalt being mined in the Congo, being smuggled out and bought on the open market. Is that something we shouldn't be embarrassed about? We need these resources. We need them to, here in Europe especially, to power our smartphones, every item of equipment. It's not something that we should be embarrassed about. And so that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, are we concentrating on human rights too much? Is that something that we can't square with each other? We need the resources, but we need to have poorly paid miners somewhere in the Congo digging all this stuff out.
I would say that this is something which the European Union tries in Serbia, yes, because many activists and human rights activists say that if there is a large-scale extraction of lithium in Serbia, there will be pollution, and which will be causing diseases, yeah, and will endanger human health. But the problem is that the European Union neglected, what the European Union neglected for years was competitiveness. Yeah. So as Mario Draghi report says, we should care much more about competitiveness, because we lag behind the United States and China as regards innovation, as regards new technologies. Yeah. I think it is possible to reconcile human rights with competitiveness, but we should do something, not just regulate, as European Union is regulating artificial intelligence, but who is innovating, China and the United States, and this is the European problem, I think.
You also mentioned that the United States or United States companies were sold on to Chinese companies in the Congo. And you seem to indicate that was a sign that somehow in the West we had lost the big picture, lost the idea that this was a race for vital stuff.
Yeah, the Chinese, they think in the long term. They have very long perspective. Already in 2000s, they somehow realized that was the future. The future lies, for new technologies in solar powers, wind turbines, and energy transformation. So they invested massively in this kind of technology, including battery storage. And of course, why China is interested in mining, processing critical minerals for this reason, because they need them to produce electronics, to produce wind turbines, everything we need for electric vehicles. And they need it, so they went abroad to Africa, to Latin America, and they spread their interest, they secured their interest, and Europe is late. And also United States, like 20, 50 years ago, they, I would say, didn't have the same perspective. So to some extent they lost. And Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, tries to reverse these mistakes.
So we need to be a bit more piratical, you think?
We need to be more pragmatic, yeah, and we need to more to think and innovate than to regulate, because now European Union is empire of regulation, is not empire of new technologies and innovation. This is their biggest problem.
What are the likely? We see that this race progressing, and it seems to be accelerating with lots of rhetoric, certainly from the American side. Where are the likely flashpoints? Greenland, Serbia. Which are the other key areas in the world that we need to watch out for in 2025?
In my view, Greenland is for sure one of these flashpoints, but also, in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. Yeah, Philippines also has critical resources, critical raw materials. And there is a huge competition there between China and the United States, not just in South China Sea, but what we see is also much stronger competent about, competition about resources there. And exactly why China dominated and actually captured without fighting South China Sea. Because natural resources are there. This is the reason.
Finally now, is this a new age of empire building? We've seen the European empires compete for spices in the 16th and 17th century, compete for the trade routes. This is just a new iteration of an old game.
I think so. What we are witnessing is like resurgence of empire states, unfortunately. There's a trend, but we have just two empires, real empires, United States and China. Yeah, we see how Donald Trump can, I would say, interfere in the European politics, but Europe doesn't want and cannot interfere that much in the American politics. This is the difference.
It's all about money, I suppose, the money and financial resources.
Money and security reasons, because, since Second World War, United States is defender of Europe, and also Donald Trump wants to say us, as he said, you need to pay your bills.
Yes.
Yeah, and to spend much more for your own defense.
Yes, we seem to have lost that in the last 50 years. Bruno Surdal, thank you very much for coming onto the programme.
Thank you so much.
Great. That's all we have time for today. Once more, do join us next time for How We Got Here.